Revealed. The billionaire's unexpected feelings for his assistant after 10 amazing years of silence. Jessica leaned against the cool glass of the office window, the city sprawling beneath her. Its heartbeat felt in the chaos of the startup world. A decade of overlooked contributions weighed heavily on her chest. But in that moment, everything shifted. She had stumbled upon a groundbreaking strategy that could save the company, perhaps even her own dignity within its walls. The thought sent adrenaline coursing through her veins, but it was accompanied by the gnawing dread of her colleagues' dismissive judgments. The urgency grew. Was it time to finally prove her worth? Each heartbeat echoed the countless times she had locked eyes with Mark Holloway, the billionaire CEO who seemed indefatigable in his success. He saw her as a mere assistant, a chaotic whirlwind surrounding his ruthless vision. Yet beneath that image lay an unrecognized ally. Jessica was the backbone of every triumph he claimed. Would she ever be seen for who she truly was? She felt the weight of years lived in silence. As she approached him with her plan, every step felt monumental. Mark, usually so decisive, hesitated when she laid out the details. His confidence, normally so commanding, faltered as old-fashioned methods took precedence in his mind. "We've always done it this way, Jess," he insisted, and a jolt of indignation surged within her. She had grown tired of being the shadow in his spotlight. Did he not realize that adaptation was the lifeblood of survival, both for the company and herself? Caught between her loyalty and a deep-seated desperation for recognition, Jessica's internal conflict raged. She sensed a flicker of something more between them, a feeling that had been quietly simmering beneath their professional relationship. But to introduce this dynamic could change everything. Longing warred with fear, the prospect of romance dangerously intertwined with the reality of their positions. As her heart raced against the rhythm of their dialogue, she caught the way Mark's gaze softened, revealing an acknowledgement she had only dreamt of. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As Jessica let the words of the CTA wash over her, she felt the collective energy ripple through their tense cocoon. But it was the moments of lingering gazes and electric conversations that filled her with even more frustration. With each passing day, their discussions grew deeper, layers peeling back, but still held back, by the looming decisions of the board. Then came the ultimatum, the board demanding clarity and direction. It was do or die. Would she risk the comfort of familiarity to assert her contributions, or would she allow Mark's aloofness to dictate her path even further? As the deadline approached, Jessica could feel the storm within her, fear, determination, and an agonizing need to resolve the emotional tug-of-war that existed between them. Would she find the courage to confront the barriers he'd unknowingly built around her, or would she lose him in the process? The crisis loomed larger than ever, and with it, a fragile connection between them was edging closer to being tested. Just as he seemed to begin recognizing her strength, the unexpected crisis struck, a turbulent storm threatening everything they had built together. Jessica paced her small office, each step echoing the battle raging in her mind. Mark's hesitance haunted her. She had knocked on the door of opportunity, and what met her was a fortress of tradition. Every proposal she'd crafted, every late-night brainstorming session, had culminated in this climactic confrontation. But now the question loomed. What was she truly willing to sacrifice for recognition? She shook her head as if that could dispel the swirling doubts. How could he ignore the innovative ideas she had championed for years? Did he not recognize that it was time for both of them to step out of the past? Her loyalty battled with her growing need for agency. The clock was ticking. The board expected results, and defeat felt uncomfortably close. Determination coursed through her veins. She had one chance to assert herself. She couldn't allow Mark's reluctance to keep her anchored in obscurity. Gathering her breath, she made a decision. She would prepare a more concrete proposal. This time she would go beyond just presenting her ideas. She would illustrate their potential impact on the company's future. As she jotted down an outline, her confidence began to swell. She needed to illustrate how her vision aligned with the company's objectives. Numbers and statistics danced in her mind as she crafted her narrative, each point reinforcing her validity and prowess. This was no longer just about Mark seeing her. It was about the entire board recognizing her worth and contributions. Hours later, Jessica stood before Mark again. The static energy was palpable. "Mark," she began, her voice steady, "I've refined our strategy into a comprehensive proposal. If you trust me to present this to the board, it could change everything." He leaned back, his gaze intense. "You really believe this can work?" "I know it can. This isn't just about what I want anymore. It's about what the company needs." The words came out more forcefully than intended, yet she felt empowered. The thought of failing couldn't eclipse the realization that she was finally taking charge. Mark's expression shifted. She noticed his usual walls of reservation beginning to crumble. "What can I do to make this happen?" Her heart raced at the vulnerability lacing his question. "I need you to back me up, to show the board that you believe in this just as much as I do." The ask felt huge, but she recalled the fleeting moments of support he had occasionally shown her. She dared to believe it could happen. With each passing second, the emotional tension thickened. She couldn't help but sense that they were teetering on the edge of something profound. Mark's response would not just shape her professional identity, but could redefine their dynamic entirely. "I'll do my part, Jess," he replied, keying into her eyes. "You'll have my support." Jessica felt a surge of exhilaration and fear. This was it. If they pushed forward, together, there was no going back. Was she ready to step into the limelight, leaving behind the identity of a mere assistant? More importantly, was she willing to risk everything, including the subtle connection that flickered between them? And then, as her mind anticipated their next steps, the unthinkable happened. The board's meeting was suddenly moved up. Time ticked down, and everything she had prepared now faced a new test. Would her moment of truth shatter or solidify the bonds she had begun to forge? Jessica took a deep breath, mental chaos merging with fierce resolve. The moment had arrived, and like a strong current, it would either sweep her forward or pull her under. She had to act, not just for the company, but for herself. In that charged atmosphere, she realized that her next move would either launch her into a new realm or leave her floundering. The stakes had never felt higher, and hope battled against her paralyzing fear. But one thought sliced through her hesitation. She would no longer wait for recognition. The time had come to take her place at the table. Would Mark stand firmly beside her, or would this moment fracture everything? The impending clash loomed, and the choice could change everything she had ever known. As the sunlight streamed through the office windows, Jessica's heart raced. Time was of the essence, and the urgency pressed upon her like suffocating weight. She glanced at Mark, who was shuffling papers on his desk, a slight crease of anxiety marking his forehead. The board meeting was looming, and every minute that ticked by felt like a countdown to judgment. "Are you ready?" His voice broke through her thoughts. She could hear the underlying question. Was she ready for this? Not just the presentation, but for the implications that might arise from it. Not just for the company, but for herself, for the woman she was becoming. "I've done the calculations," she asserted, her voice carrying the assured tone she had practiced. "The numbers speak for themselves, and the opportunities we can tap into." She let the thought trail off, willing him to complete it, to see the vision alongside her. The moment was fragile, suspended between doubt and belief. Mark looked up, his gaze fixed on her. "Jess, I've seen you work hard, but presenting to the board is different. They're not always open to change." His tone turned cautious, the restraint of familiarity evident. It was the same tone that had, in the past, dissuaded her from pushing boundaries. But today, she wouldn't let that suffocate her ambition. I understand their reluctance, she replied, approaching the edge of his desk, her hands gripping the surface as if it were a lifeline. But the industry is changing. If we don't adapt, we'll be left behind. They need to see that, and I can show them. Her conviction was alive, but it was the fear of rejection that danced at the edges of her thoughts, threatening to corrode the confidence she had just begun to cultivate. Mark appeared to deliberate. Her heart sank as she felt the weight of his hesitance. Jess, you might need more than just figures to convince them, he observed. These are seasoned executives. They'll want to hear why this matters personally. His words struck a nerve. Why was she so focused on numbers when the real story was her journey? Everything she had fought for unraveled in that moment. The anxiety transformed into a burning clarity. Drawing a deep breath, she locked her gaze with his. What if I framed the proposal around the personal stories of our clients? She proposed. Real people whose businesses could thrive from our innovations. Testimonies about how our support has changed lives. Mark's eyes flickered with a glimmer of realization. That could work, he admitted, a newfound openness spilling into his voice. Their past conversations about clients, the moments of connection they had both shared, were now poised to transform into the narrative she needed. She felt an ignition of excitement as they brainstormed. Her mind raced, filling with anecdotes, statistics wrapped in human experience. Here was the discovery of a hidden competency, her ability to see beyond a spreadsheet to the very heart of the company's mission. She was not just an assistant. She was an advocate for those who needed their voice amplified. As they shaped the narrative together, Jessica sensed a shift, not just in her professional outlook, but in her relationship with Mark. Their dynamic felt more collaborative, and his support shifted from mere acknowledgement to genuine partnership. The time for stepping out of the shadows had arrived, but it was also revealing something deeper, untapped feelings between them. Tension flickered in the air, both electric and silent, as she caught him studying her. Just as she was about to speak again, the phone interrupted their moment, bringing reality crashing back. It was the call she had dreaded. The meeting was starting early. Panic surged through her as she quickly glanced at her notes. How could this be happening? "We need to go now," she exclaimed, fear tightening her throat. Her carefully crafted message, still a stream of consciousness, felt perilously unfinished. "Together," Mark said, reassuringly positioning himself next to her as they left the office. As they walked, adrenaline fueled every step, their shared pulse matching the urgency of the moment. Possibilities stretched before her like an open road, full of promise, yet fraught with peril. Everything hung in the balance. This was it, the pivotal encounter that could either elevate her or crush her ambitions beneath the weight of anticipation. Would they manage to convey the vision? And what deeper truths might emerge in the face of such vulnerability? The realization struck her hard. This meeting wasn't just an opportunity for her career. It was a crossroads. As they approached the boardroom, Jessica felt the gravity of the situation. She was no longer simply fighting to be seen. She was fighting for her future, one that she would define on her own terms. With one final glance at Mark, she braced herself for the storm they were about to face. Would this be the moment they soared together, or the moment that shattered everything? The boardroom doors loomed ahead, a threshold to ambition and anxiety. As Jessica stood there, the reality of her professional evolution washed over her. This was no longer just about numbers or proposal structures. It had morphed into a representation of her journey, her burgeoning identity. The heavy wood door swung open, revealing a vast room filled with polished men and women, all expecting leadership, vision, and insight. Their gazes met her as she entered, dissecting in the way only seasoned executives could. The weight intensified, but behind it, something else flickered in her mind. The essence of their clients' untold stories, the lives behind the statistics. With a deep breath, she positioned herself at the front, heat radiating off her skin as she faced the board. Mark took his place beside her, his presence a silent reassurance, grounding her in the sea of judgment. She adjusted her papers, but her thoughts raced faster than her heart could keep up with. "Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to present," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. Today, we are not just discussing numbers. We are exploring how our innovations can ignite real change for our clients. Jessica launched into her presentation, weaving together the analytical and the personal client anecdotes punctuating her data points. Her mind drew upon the conversations she had had with several clients. Businesses struggling to find their footing, families depending on their entrepreneurial ventures. These stories transformed her cold figures into vivid narratives of hope and resilience. As she spoke, sorrows morphed into triumphs, and she could see the initial skepticism in the room beginning to waver. The board members leaned in, some exchanging glances, others scribbled notes. Mark's supportive smile drifted through her peripheral vision like a lighthouse in the distance. She was not alone. She was harnessing the power of connection, a newfound talent that could bridge the gap between raw data and human emotion. Then came the powerful moment she had prepared for. The case study of a struggling bakery saved by partnership with their firm. The story resonated with the board, eliciting empathy and engagement. The journey was no longer hers alone. It belonged to the clients, to the stories that surfaced because of the work they did together. But within this newfound confidence lurked a tinge of doubt, a whisper that questioned whether she had truly earned her place at this table. Would her words resonate beyond this room? Would they impact decisions that could define her career? Jessica concluded, each word imbued with the fervor of her dedication. This is our chance to be the catalyst for innovation in an ever-changing industry. If we can amplify these voices, our clients' voices, we can ensure our company not only survives but thrives. The silence that enveloped the room felt deafening. Executives whispered among themselves, their expressions unreadable. Jessica's heart raced again, threatening to spiral out of control. Perhaps Mark's fears were justified. Perhaps she had risked too much by personalizing what should have remained profitable. Then, one of the senior board members, a typically stoic figure named Mr. Whitaker, broke the tension. "You've made compelling arguments," he began, his voice calm, yet his eyes fiery. "But you speak of stories. The real question is, what happens when the numbers don't add up?" Confidence wavered, but amid the pressure, a new clarity struck her. This question presented an opportunity, a chance to challenge the way they viewed success. "Failure is often the silence between the stories we wish to tell," Jessica responded, emboldened. "Our role is not just to count successes, but to champion resilience through adversity. What matters are the lives impacted beyond the metrics." Glancing at Mark, she sensed his heart echoing the rhythm of hers, a unified pulse against the backdrop of uncertainty. With renewed energy, she held her ground, poised on the edge of transformation, not only for the company but for her entire career. As the board deliberated and discussions began to circulate, Jessica caught a glimpse of something more important than professional validation, a realization dawning upon her. The vulnerabilities shared in this room were not isolated, they were collective. Marked by that deliberate pause, Mr. Whitaker's gaze turned toward her, as though he were weighing something adamant beneath the surface. "Let's explore this further," he said, a note of intrigue weaving through his skepticism. Jessica felt a rush of adrenaline. This could be the breakthrough she envisioned. But with that excitement resurfaced questions she hadn't anticipated. What did this mean for her relationship with Mark as they ventured forth? What dynamics would shift as she stood firm in her newfound identity? The contractions of ambition pulled her, both exhilarating and daunting. The moment she had prepared for had arrived, but Jessica realized as she stepped into the fray of leadership, there were identities yet to be discovered and fears yet to confront. The board was watching, decisions were teetering, and her personal journey was only just beginning. Would she lose herself in the pursuit of professional validation, or would she solidify her identity carefully, molding her future on her terms? These thoughts accompanied her as she left the boardroom, knowing this was just the beginning, not only for the presentation, but for the confrontation within herself. She had taken a risk, but the stakes had grown higher than she ever imagined. The embrace of expectation surrounded her as she faced Mark, and unspoken possibilities danced in the air. Just as their eyes met in affirmation, his phone buzzed, an unexpected intrusion shattering the precarious moment. "Where do we go from here?" Mark asked, his brow furrowed in genuine curiosity. Jessica paused, steeling herself for the answer that could reshape everything. "I suppose that depends on how far we're willing to go." The road ahead shimmered with uncertainty, yet she could feel the flicker of potential igniting wildly within her. Jessica stepped into the bustling hallway, the echo of her presentation still vibrating within her, along with a mixture of adrenaline and uncertainty. Mark's question lingered, demanding resolution, as she navigated through a flurry of executives discussing strategies and results. Their words felt distant. She was spiraling inward, reflecting on her recent experiences. "Do we repeat the past, or dare to redefine our future?" she murmured under her breath, unsure if the query was aimed at the boardroom's power dynamics or her own professional ethos. In a rare moment of quiet, she leaned against a nearby wall to collect her thoughts. The stage had been set. She had engaged in a dialogue far deeper than sales figures, yet her mind reprised the fraught realities of data versus emotion. Was she now a storyteller, or merely a naive idealist grasping for relevance? A flurry of footsteps snapped her back. Mark caught up with her, his expression a blend of eagerness and kindling concern. "Jessica, that was incredible. You turned the tides in there." "I don't want to get too comfortable, though." She shook her head. "What if they're just being polite, indulging the rookie?" The corners of his mouth twitched, the hint of a smile dancing across his face, but it fell short of reaching his eyes. "You brought something they haven't heard before. Trust me on this." As he spoke, a new wave of resolve washed over Jessica. She hadn't just revealed client stories. She had shown the board the power of empathy, an angle seldom acknowledged. But the self-doubt whispered persistently, "It's scary, Mark. It's a slippery slope between innovation and risk." Mark leaned in, his voice lowering to a soft intensity. "Change always brings risk, but that's where growth happens. What kind of leader do you want to be?" Jessica hesitated, her mind racing back to the faces of their clients, struggles shared in moments of raw vulnerability. She realized she wanted to be a catalyst who dared to disrupt existing narratives, not just in the boardroom, but for the very people whose hopes hung on their decisions. Someone who reflects genuine interests, someone who isn't afraid to combine the personal with the professional, she replied, her voice more resolute now. Their eyes locked, and something unspoken flared between them. That connection ignited a new kind of tension, one that made Jessica acutely aware of the implications of her aspirations. Could she forge a path toward leadership without allowing personal relationships to cloud her vision? The very foundation of her identity seemed frail beneath the gravity of choices before her. "Then let's turn the meeting's outcome into an action plan," Mark suggested, brushing a hand through his hair. "Strategy sessions with the marketing and research departments. Dive deeper into those stories you uncovered." "Strategy," she echoed, a flicker of excitement radiating from her realization. "I need to outline a clear direction that connects our clients' narratives to our services, presenting them as solutions rather than just data points." A few colleagues passed by as she spoke, immersed in their own conversations. Yet in that fleeting moment, Jessica felt the weight of their expectations transforming into something ignitable. Perhaps questioning the status quo was precisely what was needed to cultivate sustainable change. "God, you don't even realize how far you've come," Mark observed with a mix of admiration and referencing their earlier days together as colleagues, years spent sculpting her professional knowledge under his mentorship. "You've always had this spirit in you, but now you're shaping your own voice." She met his gaze again, moments stretched thin between thoughts of ambition and vulnerabilities. "And what if they doubt it? What if my voice doesn't resonate with them? I could lose everything I've built." "Then we refine it. The doubts will always be there, but you have to use them to your advantage." Suddenly, a wave of urgency struck her, a compulsion to carve her identity into something bold and impactful. "You're right. I'll start drafting a proposal this evening. I can't let the fear of failure steal this momentum." In that defining moment, they solidified a pact of partnership. As they stood against the tumult of the hallway, Jessica recognized a boundary had been crossed. This venture was more than just about numbers. This was a declaration of who she would become. But as optimism began to illuminate her focus, A new kind of anxiety rooted itself in her mind. How would she balance this fierce ambition with her responsibilities, especially if she and Mark continued to grow closer in their professional synergy? Jessica? Mark's tone shifted, serious and charged with significance. There's something I've been meaning to tell you. Something about all these years we've been working together. Her heart raced, the suspense reverberating in the air as she waited, the intricate network of their relationship caught between ambition and emotion. What revelations lay on the horizon, and would they reshape her vision of partnership, both professionally and personally? She glanced at him, ready to confront whatever came next, aware that change was imminent and that her newfound path might hold unexpected directions. And just as the air around them pulsed with possibility, the realization settled within. Any choice they made from that point onward could fracture or fortify their shared journey. What would she discover in the face of truth? Jessica could feel the weight of Mark's gaze, and the anticipation hanging in the air pressed against her chest like a leaden weight. She had to grapple with the uncertainty swirling in her mind, an amalgamation of curiosity and dread. Were those unspoken words about to shift the trajectory of her carefully constructed professional world? Just say it, she urged, feeling an unexpected sharpness to her tone. Mark hesitated, his brows furrowing as he seemed to wrestle with his own emotions. It's just your progression, Jess. I've seen how dedicated you are, and it feels like more than just business. More than just business? The mantra echoed in her head, delight and fear intertwining. She prayed it wasn't what she thought. Do you ever think about what this really means for us, for our work together? The implications of his words ignited a storm within her, a visceral blend of excitement and trepidation. She thought about their partnership, his mentorship, their playful banter, and the moments he set her up to shine in meetings. Those interactions were professional, certainly, yet charged with an undercurrent of complexity. Realizing it was now or never, she exhaled, steeling herself. Mark, if you're implying something personal, that complicates everything we've built. What will happen to our work if this, whatever this is, affects our decisions? Mark's expression shifted, the hint of vulnerability pushing through his typically composed demeanor. We could try to push those thoughts aside, but I believe our connection makes our collaboration stronger. You bring out the best in me, and I want to see you soar. Her heart raced, torn between the thrill of his admiration and the risks of blurring boundaries. Would acknowledging their shared feelings jeopardize everything she'd taken years to cultivate? But we're walking a tightrope here. My ambition can't intermingle with whatever this is. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, he replied, the glimmer of disappointment in his eyes. But the truth is, I admire how far you've come. It's your voice that gives you power. We need to stay focused, she interrupted. This was not the conversation she had anticipated, and the momentum she had built toward her proposal was threatening to unravel. Let's concentrate on the project at hand. I can't let these feelings cloud my judgment. As she stepped away from him, Jessica felt a shiver run down her spine. The allure of his candor warred with her resolve, creating a fracture in her mindset. She had always aspired to be a force of change, to elevate not only herself, but also the method by which they engaged with clients. Now, personal revelations threatened to shift her focus away from innovation toward introspection. Determined to reclaim clarity, she pivoted the conversation back to their original intent. Let's outline our next steps for the proposal. We should work on weaving those client narratives into actionable strategies. I need input from marketing to ground our emotions in research. Mark nodded, the weight of the previous conversation lingering in his eyes but cloaked now under layers of professionalism. You're right. Action over speculation might just be the way forward. As they delved into their plans, a newfound echo of fear and motivation thrummed deep within her being. The drive to ascend professionally had never felt so intertwined with the emotional ties forming around her relationship with Mark. Every strategy they drafted reflected her fierce ambitions, yet she remained acutely aware that vulnerability had stripped away some of her safety net. Her readiness to disrupt norms and redefine parameters in business was now swirling alongside a personal dynamic neither had anticipated. She felt a tension poised to ignite deeper conflicts within. Could she navigate both realms without tipping over? The proposal needed to be more than numbers. It had to embody the very essence she had unearthed in herself. As the clock ticked away, Jessica grappled blindly with her new reality. Ambition had awakened in her the desire for connection, but at what cost? She knew her journey was just beginning, teetering between soaring heights and devastating falls. The sanctuary of pure professional commitment seemed to dissolve, making space for the uncertainty of mixed emotions. How would she sustain her resolve in the face of newfound feelings? With a sudden thrust of determination, she looked at Mark, her mind racing with a question that would demand an answer. Could their professional alliance withstand the tumult of evolving emotions, or would they fall apart before realizing a shared vision for success? Jessica found herself back at her desk, the soft hum of her computer providing a distraction as she flicked through her notes. The proposal that danced before her was important, but so was the uncertainty that lingered after her conversation with Mark. Each minute felt stretched, as though time had conspired to keep her spinning in doubt and ambition. Should she confront what lay between them, or should she shut it down entirely, focus solely on the project, and keep personal feelings at bay? She could almost hear Mark's voice weighing her options. It would be easier to maintain the status quo, staying within the well-defined lines of professional conduct. But the thrill of pushing past boundaries beckoned to her. The prospect of success in her proposal surged within her, creating a fire that rivaled the complexity of her feelings towards Mark. She pulled up their latest draft, a document that held her hopes and fears intertwined. Jessica's hand began to shake as she considered the depth of their budding connection, brushing against the very fabric of what she had always valued, professionalism above all else. Was she truly ready to risk everything she had worked for? She recalled Mark's words, his quiet admiration making her pulse quicken. He believed in her. That belief felt like a twin-edged sword, both lifting her and threatening to unravel the careful threads of her career. As Jessica sat there, a mix of ambition and apprehension filled her. Her desire for her proposal to exceed all expectations suddenly morphed into the weight of expectation for her relationship with Mark. She had long dreamed of being a voice in her industry, to break through barriers and reshape interactions. But at what point did this ambition curtail the exploration of her very human emotions? A knock at her door jolted her from the whirlwind of thoughts. It was Mark, his expression a blend of tentative optimism and lingering uncertainty. "Do you have a minute?" he asked, his voice softer than she remembered, tinged with concern. "Of course," she replied, straightening herself and forcing her gaze to meet his. Mark stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I know we need to focus on the project, but I've been thinking about what we discussed." His voice dropped slightly, reverberating with sincerity. "I just want you to know that I'm not trying to complicate things. Your growth means a lot to me, and I want you to feel supported in every way. But I also can't help feeling something deeper." His honesty painted a vivid image in her mind. Potential, excitement, and the thrill of crossing thresholds she had never considered before. Yet there was caution in her chest, a voice that urged her to plot her course carefully. "Mark, what we have is unique," she began, choosing her words with utmost precision. "But this proposal is critical. I don't want to jeopardize our teamwork or dilute my focus on success because of these feelings." Mark nodded slowly, an understanding glint in his eyes. "If we put our ambitions first, we can find a way to navigate this without losing sight of the professional goals we've set. But I want you to know that I'm here for you regardless." His reassurance was a balm to her burgeoning anxiety, yet it came coupled with a weight that made her mind race. There was uncharted territory looming, a line neither had crossed. They could either embrace it or retreat to the safety of professionalism. As Jessica considered his words, the stakes felt higher than ever. Could this partnership withstand the pressure of personal dynamics without collapsing under its own weight? A piece of her wanted to embrace it, to explore this new chapter with Mark, to combine personal ties with professional aspirations. Every instinct pushed her toward a leap of faith, while another part maintained a desperate need for caution. Suddenly, she realized their trajectory needed defining, and now, more than ever, they had to clarify their terms, not just for the proposal, but for their future dealings as well. Mark, if we are going to take this any further, we need to establish boundaries. We have to make certain this partnership stays solid, she asserted, her voice firm yet tentative. Mark studied her for a brief moment, then nodded in agreement, but his eyes sparkled with an emotion that spoke of unyielding hope. I think establishing boundaries might help us both. Let's communicate openly, always. Jessica's heart raced as she felt the path forward split in two, both leading to realms she hadn't anticipated. What lay ahead could potentially redefine not only her career, but her personal life as well. Would she be able to weave both together seamlessly, or would she risk everything she had built? A decision began to crystallize in her mind, but clarity remained elusive. She still had much to figure out, with stakes higher than they had ever been. As she picked up her notes to continue working on the proposal, one burning question remained. If they did succeed in blending the two aspects of their relationship, would they emerge stronger, or would they risk losing everything? Jessica's decision began to solidify as the days wore on, yet every passing moment felt laced with urgency. The proposal loomed over her, a tangible reminder of the goals she had set, while her connection with Mark oscillated between exhilarating and invasive. The professional world she had carved for herself was shifting, and she was at the heart of it, teetering on the verge of transformation. Each time they met to hash out details of the project, the unacknowledged tension crackled in the air. It was more than just a shared workload now. It was a delicate balance of personal feelings and professional ambitions. She caught herself glancing at Mark, noting the subtle changes in his expression as he pored over their drafts, and at times, she felt a thrill course through her. But excitement was often accompanied by hesitance, a reminder of the stakes involved. During one meeting, as they reviewed feedback from upper management, Jessica sensed an edge in Mark's voice, a hint of frustration as he explained the committee's concerns. "We need to address the risks involved more convincingly," he said, furrowing his brow. "You know they'll focus on the negatives before they even glance at the potential benefits." Jessica leaned forward, her heart racing. "We can't predict every objection, Mark. What we can do is emphasize our strengths, make the compelling case for why this proposal deserves attention." Her voice held a steadiness she didn't quite feel, but she had clarity now. The proposal was not just about numbers and data, it was a reflection of her abilities. Proving herself was a necessity, not just for her, but for her growing relationship with Mark. If they were to navigate this merge of personal and professional, she had to showcase her competence boldly. "Right," he conceded, his tone softening. "You're right. But it's important we're aligned on this. Completely." There was an intensity in his gaze that sent a shiver down her spine. She recognized the challenges ahead, but felt a stirring of determination. After their meeting, Jessica spent the evening revising the proposal, her thoughts racing. She began drafting a section that highlighted both their individual achievements and a united vision. If they were going to blend their visions into a single persuasive narrative, she needed to play to their strengths. The thought ignited a spark within her. This was her moment. Days turned into a frenzy of editing, late nights, and coffee-fueled mornings. Yet amidst the chaos, the underlying questions about her relationship with Mark simmered. Were they venturing into murky territory? Would this endeavor bring them closer as partners, or would it undo the fine fabric of professionalism she'd worked so hard to maintain? As the deadline approached, their dynamic shifted with newfound energy. Cooperation fused with underlying tension. Their brainstorming sessions often ended with lingering glances and subtle touches that left both breathless, yet neither was ready to delve deeper. They navigated the thin line between readiness and hesitation, excitement and fear. Finally, the day came to present their proposal. As she stood at the head of the conference table, surrounded by colleagues and lingering doubts, a wave of conviction washed over her. This was not just a compilation of numbers and charts. It was a testament to her growth and a shared vision she wanted to achieve with Mark. When she concluded the presentation, a palpable silence filled the room before the applause broke like a dam of pent-up acknowledgement and admiration. Mark's eyes sparkled with pride, a reassuring beacon amidst the chaos of her emotions. Yet, as the buzz of congratulations swirled, doubt still lingered. Would this success bring them together, or drive a wedge between personal aspirations and professional duties? As Jessica faced the potential for growth in both realms of her life, one thought remained at the forefront of her mind. What happened next would be pivotal, and it was time to confront the truth of what she felt for Mark. The decision loomed, heavy yet exhilarating. "Jessica," Mark's voice cut through her reflections. "We need to talk. About everything." A surge of anticipation surged through her. They were standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to take the leap. Would they soar or plunge into uncertainty? Jessica's breath caught in her throat as Mark's words hung between them. The conference room, thrumming with the aftermath of their successful presentation, suddenly felt suffocating. She could feel her heart racing, pounding in her ears, competing with the low hum of chatter from their colleagues. Would this conversation finally strip away the layers of unspoken emotions lingering in the air? Or would it thrust them further into confusion? In that moment, Jessica felt a dual pull, one towards Mark's compelling gaze that suggested a lifetime of uncharted possibilities, and the other towards the professional identity she had meticulously built. What would this discussion reveal about herself? Had she really come this far only to risk it all for a chance at something deeper? "All right," she said, willing herself to sound calm and collected, despite the whirlwind within. "What do you want to discuss?" Mark shifted, pulling his hands from the table's edge. He leaned slightly closer, and Jessica felt the space between them shrink. "I think we need to address what we both know is happening here. The project, our growing synergy. It's about more than work, isn't it?" Every syllable felt like a dare thrown into the void. Jessica's thoughts raced. She could sense his desire for clarity. They had skirted around this topic for so long, and now, facing it head-on felt like stepping into a spotlight, all vulnerabilities exposed. But with clarity came potential chaos, a chaos she had not yet mastered. "Of course we've built a connection, Mark, but we both have to keep our priorities straight," she hesitated, wrestling with her desire to express boldness and her instinct to retreat into safer grounds. "Our professional futures depend on our ability to separate work from whatever this is." Mark's brows furrowed, and Jessica could see the struggle reflected in his eyes. "I refuse to pretend that what we have is merely professional. I've felt it for weeks now, every time we've collaborated. Our synergy, it's electric. And I can't ignore how much I admire you, Jessica, as a professional and as a person." His confession hung heavily in the air, and for a brief moment, Jessica thought the world around them ceased to exist. Her defenses wavered, and part of her yearned to leap into the emotional abyss with him. Yet the consequences loomed ominously in the background. If they faltered, it could jeopardize everything. "But Mark, this," she began, yet the words seemed to falter under the weight of his intensity. She wanted to tell him that she felt it too, the magnetic connection drawing them closer. Instead, self-doubt twisted in her stomach. "I can't lose my position over feelings. I'm not suggesting we abandon our work for romance," he assured, his voice low and firm. "But we can't deny the bond we share either. It's not just about the proposal anymore. It's about who we are becoming together." A rush of confusion enveloped her. Could she embrace this new, vibrant potential while maintaining her integrity? Jessica felt herself growing increasingly aware of the precarious balance she had to strike between ambition and the unknown. Mark leaned even closer, his intensity unmistakable. "What if we could find a way to explore this while advancing our careers? You're an extraordinary talent, Jessica. You deserve to take the lead in your life. Not just your career, but everything. But we need to find a way to navigate it." The depths of his vulnerability threatened to overwhelm her. He was laying his feelings bare, offering not just an emotional confession but also a sense of partnership she had longed for, albeit unknowingly. Jessica could feel the hesitation slipping away, only to be replaced by a rising determination. What if she did step into this dynamic, allowing herself to explore the unknown while forging a path ahead. Could this lead to a rebirth of her professional identity? Not in spite of her feelings for Mark, but because of them. Her thoughts churned wildly as she searched his gaze. The room blurred, time stretched. "Then let's find that way," she said, her voice steady. "But we must tread carefully. Whatever we explore shouldn't detract from our goals." As his expression softened, a textured connection formed between them, laced with tension and untapped potential. Could they really navigate these waters without capsizing? Determined now, Jessica felt the pull of possibility anchor her to the present. "Together," he affirmed, his eyes brightening with a mixture of hope and challenge. That word echoed within her, but as her mind raced with new possibilities and the implications of her choice settled on her, a frigid realization dawned. Their agreement for collaboration underpinned a deeper journey, a moment where personal ambition collided with the heart's unyielding desires. The next steps lay ahead like a diverging path, uncharted yet thrilling, yet Jessica's internal battle would only intensify. The risk she faced was layered. Could they truly thrive within this tenuous weave of feelings and professional aspirations? As the finality of their decision cocooned them, another question echoed into the depths of her consciousness. What awaited them both as they walked a tightrope strung between ambition and affection? Jessica sat across from Mark in their shared workspace, a feeling of transformation emanating from the depth of their conversation. The delicate pact they had struck, one that intertwined their professional ambitions and burgeoning personal feelings, lay like a promise in the air. Each moment felt decisive, while simultaneously broadening the horizon of their futures. In the days following their resolution, Jessica immersed herself in developing their collaborative approach. The proposal, now revitalized by their mutual determination, embraced a dual narrative that would elevate their company and illustrate the human stories underlying their data. It was challenging, invigorating work, and Jessica's newfound confidence flourished with every brainstorming session. "Jess, have you reviewed the last statistics from our pilot project?" Mark inquired one morning. His casual tone belied a keen glimmer of excitement he could hardly contain. "Yes, and I think we can further highlight the client testimonials. They really felt a difference," she answered assertively, noting his encouraging nod. His support motivated her, enhancing her clarity of purpose. Their synergy was palpable, each idea bouncing off the other, coaxing their project into something innovative and impactful. Yet it wasn't just their professional ambitions that flourished. In quieter moments, their interactions felt charged with unvoiced sentiments. Jessica felt the anticipatory spark at the back of her mind, lingering like a possibility waiting to be nurtured. It wasn't daunting, it was exhilarating. One late afternoon, as they wrapped up their final revisions, Mark leaned against the doorframe of their office, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "You know, for what it's worth, I think you deserve recognition beyond this proposal. You're not just an assistant, you're a leader." The sincerity in his voice sent warmth flooding through Jessica. "Thank you, Mark. That means a lot coming from you." Here was validation she had long sought, the sense of worth she had struggled to find for years. As they solidified their project's components, the board awaited its presentation. The risk was significant, but so too was the potential reward. Both Jessica and Mark were acutely aware that this moment would not only affect their professional identities, but also reshape the essence of their relationship. The day of the presentation arrived, the boardroom thrumming with anticipation. Jessica's heart pounded, adrenaline lending her confidence. Standing at the forefront beside Mark, she could hear the murmurs of executives settle into an expectant silence. "Good afternoon, everyone," she began, her voice steady yet imbued with passion. "Today we'll share how our innovations have not just improved numbers, but transformed lives. Stories that underscore the fundamental impact of our work." As she presented, the graphs and figures transformed, morphing into narratives of clients that embodied resilience and hope. Mark stood resolutely at her side, offering descriptive insights that complemented her vision. Together they navigated the room, each chord of their presentation resonating with the executives, creating a palpable energy of understanding. When their presentation concluded, the room erupted in applause, and Jessica felt shockwaves of realization wash over her. This was her moment. Her voice had been heard, her worth acknowledged. Within days, accolades poured in from the board and colleagues alike, marking a significant shift in her career trajectory. Jessica received recognition as a leading innovator within the firm, allowing a steadfast confidence to replace the shadows of doubt that once loomed above her. But it was the conversations that followed, those nurturing moments shared with Mark, that anchored her triumph in an unspoken depth. As they both navigated the success, a delicate ease blossomed. Following the presentation, they discussed future projects, their laughter spinning threads of camaraderie entwined with hope. One evening, after a particularly successful strategy session, Mark hesitated, leaning against her desk. "Tonight was incredible, Jessica. I can't help but wonder how we might evolve our working relationship into something more." Jessica's heart raced at his unguarded honesty, a feeling both thrilling and daunting. "You're right, Mark. We've built something strong in our professional lives. Perhaps we should explore this connection," she answered, her voice steady but tinged with anticipation. Locked in that moment, with the lines between ambition and affection blurring blissfully, Jessica realized she had achieved something profound. She had not only conquered professional constraints but had also embraced a relationship born of respect, admiration, and parallel growth. In surrendering to the possibility of love, Jessica felt her individual journey solidify. It became clear she had proven her worth not just within the company, but within herself. For the first time, she stood assuredly, professionally recognized and personally fulfilled. The horizon now glimmered brightly ahead, a blend of achievement and affection. Was this the culmination of an extraordinary 10-year journey? Perhaps it was only the beginning, but she sensed the path ahead shimmered with promise. "Let's make this work, together," she stated, meeting Mark's intense gaze with a newfound assurance that mirrored everything she had grown to become. This simple declaration marked the dawning of a transformative new chapter, one where ambition intertwined seamlessly with affection, where individual aspirations became the foundation of a shared future. The leap was taken, and with that realization settled deeply within her, Jessica felt truly alive. Embracing every facet of her journey, she had arrived, not just at the convergence of love and ambition, but at the transformative discovery of herself. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It's crucial for us. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share.